på maxa volymer. All right. So me and Felix are going to film today. He's right there, but it's a bit difficult because there's a shit ton of snow. So we had to buy a snow shovel, snow shovel, so that we could get in the garage. So yeah, we've had quite a lot of snowfall this week. So it's been pretty chaotic where, at least where I live. Felix lives a little bit away. It's been a little better, but we've had a few decimeters of snow here and a lot of wind. So my town was even in the news. Over 1,000 cars stuck on the highway, which is not common down here because we rarely get this much snow. So that's cool. Ja, ju bara jämnt så är det skitsamma liksom. Welcome guys. In this video I will be showing you how I made the DQ250 Dsg swap on my 1.8T Golf. For you guys that are new, I got a Mark IV Golf 1.8T wagon that I've built a big turbo on and everything. And this summer, or last summer, I made a Dsg swap on it. Now, this video I will be showing you guys how to make this and all the parts you need and hopefully everything you will want to know to do this swap. There's a lot of you guys that wonder how I made it, and I got a few videos, but I thought let's make a complete video on how it's done. And if there's anything that I missed, because there's most likely something, just leave a comment down below. If you have done it yourself, like what axles work for you, what doesn't work, and if I've said anything wrong or missed anything, just leave a comment down below then, so we can get everything in one video, all the information you will need to do this. So I thought I will be doing this in sections. I will try to make the cuts in YouTube and stuff like chapters and all that, so if there's something you don't know, you can skip right to that. So let's start then. First chapter is why. Why would you want to make a DSG swap? It's known on the internet that making an auto swap is not cool at all. It's a sin. But I think the DSG is a pretty cool gearbox. It's not really an automatic gearbox. I consider it a sequential. If you ask Felix, it's not a sequential, but I think it's pretty cool. So if you're running high power, for example, and you got the 5-speed, it's a little bit risky. It's a ticking time bomb. And for me, I'm running 360 horsepower on the engine. Over 300 is a bit risky when you're doing hard pulls and stuff like that, so I figured why not do a DSG swap, because they can take up to 650 Newton meters before the clutch starts slipping. But the gearbox won't blow up, at least, as the 5-speed would. So it was either a 6-speed swap or a DSG swap, and for me it was the DSG. I think it's much cooler and a little bit more odd. If you're running drag racing or doing track racing, that might be a good choice as well. Drag racing, obviously, you don't want to take time on shifting and stuff. And a proper sequential is a lot more expensive than a DSG swap, which just works with the OEM stuff. So it's a lot cheaper than that. Track use, it might not be as beneficial, but it's still pretty reliable, I would say. If you just keep the servicing good, it's still pretty reliable and it can handle a lot of power. So that's also a thing to consider. If you have blown your gearbox, for example, and you want to do a 6-speed swap, it's not that much more expensive to do a DSG swap, and it can hold a lot of power. The only drawback you have really is you don't get to shift anymore. even though you got the manual mode, you push front and back and stuff, but that's the biggest disadvantage for me at least. But it's still a lot of fun, and it sounds pretty cool when you shift. So chapter 2 is parts, and there's a few parts that we will need, preferably a whole donor car, because there's a lot of the parts there. But the first thing you want is obviously a DSG, and this particular one is the DQ250. That's what I've done. There is also a DQ500 from the newer cars. I think it's the MQB platform it's called. But the old DQ250 6-speed gearbox with a wet clutch that came in the 2-liter turbo gas engines as well as the diesel engines. That's the one you want if you want to do a DSG swap, because it can handle the power. The other one, the 7-speed, is the DQ200 you have on the smaller engines, and it's a dry clutch, and that can take power for shit. So stay away from that. And preferably, I would say, actually from a gasoline engine, from, for example, the GTI or the Golf R, because it has a different gearing than the TDI has. I have the TDI gearbox in mine, and it has super long gears, and if you're not running like a super big turbo, it's going to be pretty slow in the lower RPMs because it takes such a long time to rev up. Though when you got the big turbo, you have a long time in the power band, so it's pretty good when you have a big turbo, but if you're not going super big, it's not really a good driving experience, I think. I think I would prefer the gasoline one in this case. For the flywheel, you would want the TDI flywheel because it has the same bolt pattern on the crank as the 1.8T. The gasoline TSI engines has a different bolt pattern on their flywheels, so they won't fit. So the TDI flywheel is what you want in this case. Now, would you want to buy a solid flywheel or a dual mass? I've run with a OEM dual mass because it works a lot better with the DSG. It gets really rough shifting when you go solid mass or single mass in this case. And it has a pretty long lifespan, so I highly recommend doing the dual mass in this case. Now the axles that goes from the diff to the outside of the wheel, there are a few variants that you want or can have. I ran with the axles from a Volkswagen Beetle 1.9T Dsg that came in 1-year model, I think, in the US. Now they are pretty hard to find. I found some eBay copies in the US, and that's very expensive when you're shipping it to Europe and Sweden, of course. But they work, they fit right on because it's the same chassis and everything. The other thing you can do is do custom axles. You can take the donor axles from the car, for example, and just shorten them. They need to be shortened between 1 and 2 centimeters, but make sure to measure before you cut them when you got the gearbox in the car, so you get the right distance, because there is a little bit of a difference between the Golf, the R32 and the Audi TT. They have a different hub on the outside, so they have different lengths on the axles. So make sure to measure, but donor car custom axles also work. Either how, they need to be shortened. Now, I've also read that the 6-speed has a bigger diff housing, just like the DQ250, so the 6-speed axles actually fit. Now, I haven't tested this myself, but I've read a few people on the internet that have done this. If it's the precise correct length, I don't know, but they managed to make it work. So that can also be an option if you got a hold of a few 6-speed axles. So those are the 3 options for axles that you got. You can also go completely custom, but that's now it's not so cheap anymore. Next thing on my list, I got my notepad here. I got a few points here, so I don't forget everything because there's a lot of info. But the next point is the servo line. The original servo line that goes on the 5-speed manual, and I think the 6-speed as well, is much tighter around the gearbox than it is on the DQ250. So it won't fit, because the DQ250 is like twice the size of the 5-speed. So you will need a new servo line. Now, there came a few models with the R32, the VR6, that had the DSG, so there is OEM servo lines that you can find. Now, I don't have the serial number on those. I found some on Autodoc, but I can't find them anymore. And it's a little bit of a guess. I compared them to my original line, and it didn't look the same, so I tried that one. It fits, but I had to kink the line a little bit. That's an option. Otherwise, you can make a custom servo line. It's not that hard. The banjo bolt on one side and the banjo bolt on the other side, and just a line all the way. That shouldn't be an issue, as long as you get the right pressure, a hose that can handle all the pressure, because it's a high pressure line. Now for the mount to the DSG, you can use the OEM mount that came on at least the 5-speed gearbox. It fits right on. The only thing is that it's only 2 holes and the DSG has 3 holes in it. So preferably you would want to get a mount with 3 holes in it, so that you can hold up all the weight, because the DSG is, I think it's almost twice the weight as the original 5-speed. And there is, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure it was the Mark V GTI, has the same mounting holes on the engine mount that the Mark IV has. So you can take Mark V engine mount and put it on the Mark IV, and it has the 3 holes for the gearbox. And that will fit and support the whole weight of the gearbox. That's much bigger, but it's not necessary. I'm running the OEM one. The last big thing on the list is the shifter that's inside the car. Now, I originally got the shifter from the donor car that I bought. It was a Skoda Superb from 09, and it had a big version shifter, but there's also a smaller version. Now, I haven't found the specific OEM number on these. There seem to be a little bit different between Skoda, Volkswagen, and I don't think Audi even had that. But yeah, there's a small version and a big version. If you want to have it very tucked like I have, I still have all the interior pieces left. You can have that with a small shifter. So that's what I would recommend, but both will fit physically, except you have to trim the interior for the big one. The last thing you will probably need is the coolant lines going to between the block in the DSG, because the DSG has water cooling as well. You got the sandwich plate on the front of the engine that has water lines going to it. You have an in and you have an out. So the only thing I did is taking the DSG oil cooler in line before the engine oil cooler. So it's not that difficult. You need like half a meter of coolant lines. It's not that hard to make. With the parts list done, we go to chapter 3, which is wiring. Now, there is a little bit more to wire than if you would do, for example, a 6-speed swap, but it's not really that bad once I learned what you can do and what you cannot do. It's not that bad, actually. There are a few wires from the DSG box, and there are a few wires from the shifter. And what I've done, and what is very important, is to put everything between the ABS module and the ECU, the engine ECU. Because for some reason with the CAN system it has to have a certain order, and if you don't do that you can have some issues with the ECUs talking to each other. So I highly recommend you put them up in the water tray where you got the main harness. You can find the CAN cables. You got CAN high and CAN low. You can put it there, and then you got power at the battery and ignition as well. So what you need from the gearbox is CAN high, CAN low, which you will put in the water tray. And then you got ground, you got main power, which is battery, or 30 power, whatever you want to call it. And you got ignition, which is when you turn the key, you got power to it. Now that one is very important because I did a little bit of ugly wiring to see if everything worked. And when you put battery power on ignition, the ECU is always on, which becomes a problem when you turn the key off. It loses connection to all the other ECUs in the car and it locks itself up. Even though you turn the ignition on again, the transmission will say, nope, you can't drive anywhere. So the ignition input is very important to be ignition. So when you turn the car off, the ECU in the gearbox also turns off. And that's for the gearbox. Now the shifter is almost the same. You got positive, negative, ignition, can high, can low. There are a few wires that's not used on the Mark IV platform because we don't have all the modules that the Mark Vs and Mark VI has. So those pins you can just leave unused, basically. Now what I did with the location on those is I took the CAN cables and routed that through the firewall to the same spot as the gearbox. So they are spliced into the main harness, can high, can low, at the same spot between the engine ECU and the ABS module. The positive and negative, you can keep that wherever you want. It's not that important. I took it from the OBD port because it takes so little power, so I just spliced it in back there. It's easy and close to take power from. Otherwise, you got the main fuse holder and stuff underneath the dash, so you can take power from there as well. And that's pretty much all the wiring you need to do. It's not that complicated. Now the good thing with this is, because the DQ250 speaks the same language as the Mark IV platform, it has the same OBD language, you can still use OBD 11, for example, or VCDS, VAGCOM. So it's really nice. I'm still using OBD 11 with my trusty old notepad here to read codes and read faults and read live data and stuff like that. Works just fine. The only problem I have, because I don't have the original ECU, I'm running ECU Master, I don't have all the VIN numbers and stuff like that, but it's not even necessary. You can still plug it in and check codes on the existing ECUs that's in the car, or the control modules. So it's really nice. You can still use it just as normal. And talking about OBD and stuff, that is one of the things I highly recommend. You should not do this build unless you have access to something to read faults with. If it's OBD 11 or VAGCOM, it doesn't really matter. I really recommend OBD 11 because it's such a powerful tool and it's very inexpensive. So if you've come this far and you've done so much with your car already, I highly recommend you go buy yourself an OBD 11. It's really worth it to read faults and all that. You can search for faults and diagnose the car really easy. All right, chapter 4. What ECU are you going to use with this? What's the best? Now, there are a few options. You've got the OEM ECU, and I'm not running OEM, but what I've read is if you're running OEM ECU, all you need to do is to code it to become an automatic ECU, so that the engine ECU knows that it's an automatic transmission connected to the car. As far as I know, that's all you need to do to get the car running. Now, if you're running the car stock and you got the TSI transmission, you should be good to go and just run as you want. But if you're running a big turbo or a high horsepower car, I highly recommend that you do a stage 1 tune on the DSG or a custom tune to match it properly with your car. What I'm running in my car is a custom stage 1 tune, so it has increased red line because the TDI is locked at 5,000. So I've increased that to 7,000, as well as increased the torque capacity from, I think it's 400 or 450 to 600. So it can take all the torque it wants now. If you don't do that, you're going to have some issues. So you would want a tuner that can do a stage 1 or something on the car as well, or the transmission rather. Now, if you're doing a custom ECU like me, I'm running ECU Master, or if you're running Max ECU, I'm not sure if there's any other ECU as well. Ignitron, for example, that's a like hybrid. It's sort of an OEM ECU, but it's not. Piggyback, yeah, exactly, it's a piggyback system. There are a few ways to do it. ECU Master is updating a lot, so we got a lot of new parameters and functions with the DSG over the last year only, so to make it run a lot better. And I think it runs pretty good now. I have some electrical issues that I have to sort out, but talking between ECU Master and the DSG and everything else, it works really good. That's also an option. If you're running that, you got a lot more options in the ECU Master how to tune the engine, shifting, for example. you pull back timing and fuel capacity and fuel injection and stuff like that. You got a lot more room to tune in the ECU Master and Max ECU, for example. But again, I recommend that you got a good tuner that you can talk to and support you. If you're not just running bone stock, then you can just plug everything in and run it as is. So good support with the tuner is really important to have as well, so that you can match everything together to get the best driving experience possible, basically. All right, so I'm pretty sure we're done now. I was so excited to start editing the video for the final DSG swap ultimate guide that I forgot to film an outro. So yeah, but I know this now because I edited everything. So this will basically be the outro for the ultimate DSG swap guide for the Mark IV 1.8T. Of course, all the platforms that fit as well. I hope I covered everything. There's probably something I missed, but if I did, just leave a comment down below and just compliment everything. So we got everything in one place. That would be amazing. I will also leave links to all the forums and stuff that I found, the little info that I had. And yeah, I hope you appreciate this. It's taken a long time. I started the DSG swap over a year ago, and well, it got finished last summer, but it takes time and dedication to do this. And I hope you find this all this information useful, even if this video isn't really as enjoyable or funny as you'd like. It has a lot of info on it, at least. So yeah. For all of you guys that are doing or want to do a DSG swap, I wish you the best of luck, and I hope that I help you guys achieve your goals. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.